Hello, thanks for tuning in and listening to another podcast of the Polemic Pool. My name is Jeffrey Saint, and I'm one of four colleagues and playmates and friends that get around and toss some ideas around our heads and hopefully into yours. And if there's a way to get them back, hey, if this is up on Facebook and you're listening, feel free to leave comments because we really like comments. We want to know you're out there. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what you have to contribute back. Maybe if you have a good idea, we'll incorporate it into the next one. To my right is fellow arguent Steve Anderson. To his right, so you kind of get an idea of the visual here going counterclockwise, is Laura Castelletto. Say hi, Laura.
Hello.
No, I said say hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
There you go. She's polemic already. And to Laura's right, Jerry Bowes. How you doing, Jerry?
Just fine. Just fine.
Good to hear. We're going to talk about the idea of human rights. What it means. Does it mean anything? Is it an oxymoron? Is it not an oxymoron but redundant? We have a saying in the United States. We hold these truths to be self-evident. And along that idea is the idea of human rights. And along the idea of human rights, we in the United States are very, very centrist. We're very centric. We think we're the ones that have the corner on human rights. And I don't think that we're doing a very good job of managing it in the United States, and so I don't think it's really any of our business to manage it in the rest of the world right now. But there's certainly a lot of human rights issues going on to talk about. So along the line of you're born into this world of zero volition whatsoever. You just happen in. You happen into your family. Through your family, you happen into your religion. All of your initial beliefs, everything that's going to form the foundation of your life beyond nature is just pure happenstance once you're born into the world. And along with that are human rights. More for some, less for others. And that's what we want to talk about. So I'm going to open up the question to the group here and see who wants to ring in, who wants to sign in, who wants to chime in, who wants to say something first about the idea that you're even born with rights to begin with. What do we think about that?
Well, I have to go. This is Jerry Bowes. And I have to go back to the Age of Enlightenment, the French philosophers Rousseau, Voltaire, and the Age of Reason, from which the Constitution, our founding fathers drew from. I really am a fan of the Enlightenment, and I think what they were trying to do in general, just to try and condense it a little bit, was that they were trying to establish some sort of limit on authority, because they were challenging the authority of the papacy and of the monarchy, and in order to limit authority, they attempted to establish human rights as a workable, viable concept that could be legislated and worked upon and guaranteed, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's what the founding fathers were trying to do as well in the colonies.
So I'm curious, maybe you guys picked up on this too. You said, do you believe then that human rights are a construct of humans?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Then what before the Enlightenment?
Well,
no rights for humans?
I'm not a Platonist. I don't think things exist as a solid idea in the ether. No, I think that it's a matter of construct, human construct, and human rights is a human construct. I think it's a very viable one. I happen to applaud it.
Well, I happen to agree with Jerry is as uncomfortable as that makes me feel. I just think that we are social animals. We do have to abide by certain rules for all of us in our grouping to coexist and to not usurp someone else's property or rights or whatever. So I think establishing rights is a very smart thing to do, and I would be very uncomfortable if all rights were tomorrow taken away for whatever reason. What would ensue?
Okay, fair enough. So all rights are taken away from everybody at the same time. Doesn't that level the playing field? Because right now we have some who have more rights than others. And in our system of criminal justice, in our jurisprudence system, we take rights away from criminals. We punish them by suspending some of their constitutional rights. Well, what we're doing is we're empowering ourselves over another to say, by the power vested in me, I give you this right. And then if you mess up, we say, I'm taking the right away from you by the same power vested in me. The problem is, who's vesting that initial right in us?
Well, what did you not understand about what I just said regarding being social animals and having some sort of construct in order to maintain a civil society? If you have uncivil people, then should those rights be temporarily taken away? I would say yes.
Let me jump in there. What you're really talking about is Rousseau's concept of the social contract.
Exactly.
The social contract being based on human rights, which are protected by an elected government. So I'm in favor of all.
Now we're talking about democracy and who gives...
Yeah, because personally I'm in favor of that over a papacy or a monarchy. How about you, Laura? Do you favor monarchies?
You're wondering why I haven't spoken. There is a reason. The reason that I haven't spoken is because my view of this is so strong and so forward-thinking that I kind of wanted to wait a minute to drop it in, because I wanted to see if you guys were going to lower yourselves and talk about politics, which you have a hard time resisting. And politics is just so annoying and trivial, and I feel that whenever you get to the point where then you devolve into arguments about which party, etc., you've lost your whole vision of human rights.
I don't remember us talking about any party.
No, you haven't.
No, you were waiting for us to go there, and we didn't go there.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring you out of that pool that you were waiting for us in the shallow end, and we're going to say, come on into the deep end, Laura. The water's fine.
Here's what I want to say, Jeffrey. I feel that we now have a good, solid concept of human rights. We have a list of them through the United Nations, which the United States has not ratified. We have a concept of the entire planet of people. And, we know that there's more than free speech. We know there's the basic ones of food and shelter and perhaps free movement between borders and the right to asylum. There's many rights that we understand should be part of human rights, and these have been
okay. Hold on just a second. You said we have the right to asylum, but if you want to use asylum, you've just brought politics into the middle of your argument.
Okay.
So can we take that out?
Let me finish, Jeffrey. I feel that if we do not evolve and make these a priority, nothing else that humanity wants to do to evolve, to not destroy the entire planet, will not happen. We must get human rights for everyone. We must focus on that. And progress will not be made if you look at the sweep of progress through time, and how suddenly things jump because the right inventions or the right ideas come to fire and fruition. Human rights is the most key thing of all right now. If we can solve this problem, we can move to the next problem. And we've got some big ones coming up. But first, we've got to take care of one another. We've got to look out for one another via human rights.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit here. You're born. What's your first human right? Just name one, Laura. What's the first human right of a newborn anywhere in the world? What would you say?
You're helpless. You must be taken care of completely.
But what's your right? You're a human.
Food, shelter.
Okay, just one. One human right. One right that
right to life.
Newborn baby has. It has a right to live. Has a right not to be killed just after it's born. Is that what you're saying?
Or
elaborate.
I'm thinking more fundamentally. You got a baby that's taken out of the womb through a natural birthing process. What's the first right that baby should have?
Now, are you trying to confuse needs for rights? The baby certainly has a number of needs that need to be met.
It has a number of needs, but I think I'm trying to get the conversation rolling in a little more polemic fashion. So let me throw it out there.
Yeah.
Very first right that kid has, the right to breathe clean air.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So I want to take this way back from political asylum and say, okay, let's build the argument up. Let's start at the bottom.
Food,
so you have a right to breathe
water.
Clean air, don't you?
Yes.
You have a right, Jerry. You have a right to clean water for the baby.
Well, I would say yes.
The baby has a right to clean water.
I would say yes. I'm reminded of it's the Clash. If you remember the Clash, they had a wonderful song. Clash is a punk group from England, very popular in the 80s. Love those guys. One of their best songs was Know Your Rights, because so often they are treaded upon. And I love your list. I think that's probably what the United Nations has. I'm unfamiliar with the list of human rights. I can't delineate them. I haven't read them. I'm not up on them. But clean air, clean water. We're working actually on some other concepts in America now that are in the political realm, like shelter and food. Those are publicly being discussed now. Are those rights or not?
Well, I hate to go down.
Go ahead, Steve. What do you got?
I hate to go down this rat hole, but you wanted to start with the genesis of where a right begins, and for some reason, you felt after birth.
No, there was arbitrary. I'm just saying there's a for the sake of beginning with a human being. I'm not talking about existence as a fetus. I don't want to get into that argument. The rights of the unborn. I want to talk about human rights. Let's define that point of departure as the first birth.
So you're talking about the right to bear arms, right?
Your genesis is
Baby
birth.
needs a rifle.
Well, the baby's born with bare arms. You don't see many of them coming out wearing sweaters. So I'm just saying, let's go postpartum on this and keep the other argument for another polemic session. Is that fair enough?
I just wanted to find out.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So because Laura brought up a lot of good things, but they're way down the road. I'm talking about the most fundamental of rights for human beings, and I would say every baby, irrespective of the accident of its birth, should have a right to clean air, should have a right to clean water, should have a right to the environmental protections it needs to thrive and to survive.
Laura's not down the road a ways. Laura looks at things in a micromanagement aspect. If you notice in previous conversations, a lot of her argument is micro-based. And you, on the other hand, look at more of a wider macro as a more general thing. And so I don't think she's talking any different than you are as far as down the road so much. You're just looking at it. One's looking at it from about 30,000 feet, and the other one's in the trenches. And I think that's where the difference is between the arguments.
And yet tonight, I feel like we've switched roles.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the one in the weeds, and Laura's up there at 50,000 feet.
Yeah.
She's talking about the United Nations Charter, and I'm talking about...
Which is kind of
the
political, isn't it?
It is.
Well, let me jump in. Eleanor Roosevelt, when they came up with this post-World War II, said that human rights are really at the micro level. They are the man in his neighborhood drinking his water and on his farm. I can't quote her exactly. But she said something like that. She said, whatever sweeping thing we sign, it has to be for that individual down at that level, or it means nothing. If the government agrees, but it isn't down in the street, it means nothing.
I think we can agree that human rights are right down there in the street. They're down there to the person in the field. If they don't start there, let's face it, if you don't begin there, if you don't begin with birth, you're not going to get to 28 years old or 43 years old or older than that.
If I can get back to something that we talked about a little bit earlier about the concept of human rights actually being a human construct, something that we evolve and elaborate and try and establish through law, then we can talk about a number of things. For instance, education. Compulsory education is something which was foreign to America until we finally legislated it so that everyone, we would now say, has a right to an education. We've done it through law. It's become part of our culture, and we have now accepted it. So I think it's a construct, and it's what you put into that construct that's important. Now, it's good to define, and that's what we do, basically, on a year-by-year basis through the working of our government.
What do you think about that, Laura? That's a very political statement. We have our human rights given to us by our government.
Well, of course there's a problem there, because the government, who is the government?
Eleanor Roosevelt, you're the one that quoted, you're the one that wanted to talk about her. You're the one that mentioned the United Nations, probably the most political organization in the world.
And didn't we start with a discussion of the Constitution and the framing founding fathers?
Indeed, we did.
So it's a natural course of discussion.
Yes.
I mean, you could look at the English history with the idea of the Magna Carta and the development of common law. It's common law which guarantees rights in England.
Sure.
But I see government, occasionally a government will serve its people very well, and human rights will be well served, but then it will go away from that again.
Of course.
That's when those rights that are bestowed upon the governed serve the needs of the government. As soon as the government doesn't derive any need for itself, the rights are taken away. China is very much like that right now. There's a very fluid situation in China. There's a very fluid situation in Russia. There's a fairly fluid situation in Iran.
In regards to privacy, there's a fluid situation in the United States.
In the United States.
Which is a human right too. Privacy is
And
on the list.
there is no
Not all would agree with
fluidity. There's no fluidity in the government of North Korea.
Amnesty International rates the United States below China for human rights.
That doesn't surprise me. We have degraded on the scale of human rights in this country. It's become extremely divisive along a number of lines.
Education.
Political lines, religious lines.
Race lines.
Those people who are so-called empowered by us because we're a democracy to protect our rights are taking our rights away because our right to something isn't serving their need as a governor. And that's my question. So all of these constructs that we have, I'm really wondering, do we need them? I mean, if they're rights, they're rights. It seems to me like you're not being given the right. You're being given access to something that you just kind of inanely have a need for, and you should have, by your birthright, access to. Somebody else comes in and says, well, I'm going to call that a right, and I'm going to give it to you. And if I give it to you, I can take it away from you.
Well,
I have a problem. I'm sorry, Steve.
Well,
talk.
no. Anytime someone makes an argument about a one-way street, meaning that rights are something that the government takes away or gives, and if you want to look at one-way streets, that's one way to approach it. But I think most everything is a two-way street. As hard as a third party, sorry about getting into politics, is in this country to have any strength, the people can take away some of the power from those that are governing. And we talked in the last conversation about the Tea Party and some of these grassroots organizations. There's always going to be a balance.
Well, let's think about that, though, Steve.
To argue that woe is me.
No. It's not woe is me. It's woe is you. You've heard the phrase, "You have the right to remain silent." Well, of course you've got the right to remain silent. You know what? Everybody has the right to remain silent, whether it's given to them through Miranda or not. There may be consequences for remaining silent. So when they say you have the right to remain silent, that doesn't really mean anything, does it? You have the right to remain silent anywhere you are.
Again, it's a protection. It's a protection against authority, a point I tried to make earlier. The whole idea of human rights back in the Age of Enlightenment was to limit the absolute power of the monarchy and, of course, the papacy, too. That's where the whole idea of rights emerged from. And we just have to keep in mind that now we don't have a monarchy. We have an elected government with representative democracy. And that now is the body through which we reflect human rights.
Okay. Okay. So is it a human right, then, to grow up and choose who you want to marry?
Are you asking him
I'm asking
personally?
Jerry based on what he just said.
I,
said
I
representative
understand that there are
democracy.
cultural differences. I happen to say in our culture, I say
Okay,
yes.
we're in the state of Michigan. You know what happened on Friday?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know what happened on Saturday?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so in the state of Michigan, the constitutional ban on same-sex marriages was deemed unconstitutional by a federal judge. And our attorneys general immediately, in fact, probably well prior to that decision in preparation, had spent lots of taxpayers' money to come up with an argument to present to another court to say we need to stay on that federal judge's decisions because I don't want those people having the right to marry.
A friend of mine married 48 people in the interim.
Oh, cool. Good for your friend.
Can I throw
but
a
let's
polemic in
Yeah.
on gay marriage?
Well, anyone you want.
Okay. Logically, it seems to me they're humans. They should have the right to marry anyone that they love. The only real objection should be if there are children in the union and they raise the children, do the children come out somehow less ability to socialize
I don't
in
think
our
we'll
world?
know that.
Wait, hold on. If studies show that they cannot raise children as effectively as heterosexuals, then there's a legitimate objection to
Okay,
same-sex
the thing
marriage.
is,
If
all of the
studies do
studies
not
have shown
show
the
this-
opposite.
Yes, if studies do not show this, and careful analysis of studies based on poverty level and current attitudes, et cetera, factored in, if they do not show this, there is no objection to same-sex marriages that's legitimate in a human rights context whatsoever.
I agree with you, Laura.
That's logic.
But when we talk about representative democracy, who the hell is represented by the democracy we have in the country right now? Half of us aren't.
Well, it's always going to be a contest. It's always going to be a contest. It has been from the beginning with the Magna Carta. It was a contest then, and it's a contest now.
Of course.
And we have a constantly evolving and expanding notion of what our rights are. And
Of course.
there'll be flows and ebbs in the progress of establishing and maintaining those rights.
Of course.
If we don't maintain our rights, we will lose them.
You pointed to education.
Very interesting comment. If we don't maintain our rights, we will lose them.
Yeah.
Inevitably.
God, I think that is pathetic. The idea that we have to fight to keep our rights here in the United States of America, in any Western country, in Canada, in Australia, in most of Western Europe, the idea that you have to fight to keep something that is just innately yours to begin with because somebody's going to take it away.
But you see,
Well,
you're claiming an
yeah,
innateness.
Absolutely.
I don't agree with innateness. I think it's
Oh.
a structure.
Okay.
You
That
better-
structure can be
You,
changed.
you almost have an ontological belief in rights. or
Topologically
something.
speaking, I would agree with you.
Okay.
And that's where we
Yeah,
differ.
and that's where
Yeah.
we differ.
Sure, sure.
Absolutely.
Well, that's
now
what we're here
I
to do.
understand why we're not being able to communicate. You
Well, we
you
could-
have inherent. So you're. If I don't want to speak for
No,
you.
do because you're on the right track.
Okay.
God-given, maybe?
You have an inherent
That was uncalled for.
right because you're a human to have
Certain
rights.
things to have rights. That's exactly.
Well,
And
that
you
is
know
the
what?
most ridiculous thing I've ever heard
Really?
in my life. I can't imagine anyone believing that.
You don't believe
Where
because
does
you were
this
born you have a
come from?
right?
Where does this ontological, value of rights come from? Is there some majestic?
I'm being asked this by a Buddhist.
Is there some majestic higher power that you want to share with us? Is this bestowed upon us?
I didn't know you were so Kantian myself.
Yes, exactly.
I was
Kant,
going to
right
bring
from
up. I was
Emmanuel
going to
himself.
bring up the categorical imperative because it's not what most people think it is. But then I just end up sounding like Spock.
We can't get pretty esoteric.
And-
I mean,
I-
we don't
I-
really need to go that far.
I really
afield.
don't want to become too Spocky in here.
Kant's
why-
a pretty
There was only
big
one
pill to
that
handle.
would be okay. One
You know.
Vulcan per show.
Well, so I'll wear the ears
But
tonight.
we're
Then
not
is what you're
letting
saying.
You get away with this
but okay, so
deflection.
and I'm not deflecting, but
I think
yes,
you are.
I absolutely believe that if you're born into this world not of your will, that you have certain rights that come along with your being a human being. I believe if
Just a human being.
No, you cut me off right before I
Well,
said
no,
the
but
second
you
half.
said human being.
I said, and what I was going to say next was no more so, nor less so than any other form of life that is brought into this world through whatever form of
Well, then
reproduction.
here's what I don't get. Based on what you just said, okay, and you argued with Jerry regarding this fight that goes on, this push and pull, this ebb and flow. Well, I mean, the whole earth is based on eating each
Yes.
other. And so one right gets usurped
Okay, so
over another.
listen,
so
you
where is
have,
this
hold on.
inalienable?
Okay,
where
great.
is this
Listen.
ontological right?
You just said on eating each other. So you're at the you believe human beings, Homo sapiens are at the top of the food chain ostensibly, and we have
I
the
didn't
right to
say
eat
that.
other animals, but do they have the right to consume us?
No, let's get back to something more sensible. How about
Oh, I don't think that's insensible at all. I don't think it's unsensible. I don't think that it's anything other than what it is. I'm just asking the question.
It
Well-
had nothing to do with what I
Let
said.
Jerry
Well, here's my-
talk,
here-
and then I
That's
want to
everything.
say something.
All right, well, here's my answer. I'm just trying to be real politic about things. Bring it out of the ether and talk about how we have to maintain our rights today. If we're going to keep privacy, we have to fight for privacy. Laura?
You can't fight.
I like your attitude, Jeff. I would break it in people into two categories. I'm going to unvulcan this. There are people, and I'm going to put you in this category, who want to live in a world where everyone loves and respects everyone else, and they built. These guys are making gestures you don't want to know, okay? But they want to live in this beautiful world and spread love and positivity. But most people are out for selves and have an in-group and an out-group, and they will call you on your beep right there. And,
Exactly.
And I understand those people.
So, Laura, I agree with you, and this is a little bit unusual and a little bit frightening, actually. It's new territory, but I'm taking the abstraction of the rights of being and extrapolating backwards from that.
Amen.
And that's a whole different perspective than what Jerry and Steve have, which is saying we're going from a completely different perspective and saying these are constructs that are necessary for you to even have those rights. Because before these constructs were codified, you didn't have those rights. You didn't have access to them. And you're kind of making my point for me if you think about it for just a second. Rights cannot be granted. They can only be taken away. And the protections you're talking about are to make sure that these rights are not taken away.
You can add all the bromides and platitudes you want, but when push comes to shove, this fanciful argument of yours about this inalienable right is absolute bull. You know it. I know it. I don't know where
Well,
this
okay,
comes
first
from.
off, I don't know it, Steve. I believe. I don't know, but I believe. If you don't have that right, then what the hell are you doing here to begin with, and how did you ever get here?
So basically what you're saying is you have the right, but we shouldn't have to fight for our rights because we have them from the beginning.
Well,
and
to a
everybody
certain
should just
degree.
grant them to
Jeff
us.
is
To
like
a certain degree,
we
that's
should
kind
just
of what I'm
be
saying.
granted.
To a certain degree, I'm
What
saying you
world
got them
do you
until
live
people.
on?
I'm not talking about living in the world. I'm talking about
Well,
being.
obviously.
I'm talking. Good touche there, right?
Hold
I'm
on.
talking about being in the world.
I mean, that's
Steve,
insane.
you are the thug. Jeff is Sweet Polly Purebred. And Jerry, you're another thug, and you're going to defend Sweet Polly Purebred. That's all. You're really all allies
and I
here.
feel so defended and loved. And along that line, Jerry, wrap this up for me in about 10 seconds. What do you got to say for yourself?
Know your rights, love your rights.
Know your rights and love your rights. Laura, what do you got?
Human rights, next step in progress. We got to have them.
So you say they're foundational. Absolutely.
Beyond foundational. They're the next step. We have to go further than human rights, but it's our next step as
Okay.
a world.
And Steve, what are you thinking wrong this time?
The next subject will be...
I knew you weren't going to answer it because there's no answer to the unanswerable. So what are you talking about next time we meet?
Okay. The discussion is, should drugs be legal? All drugs.
You mean should you have a right to use drugs?
No. Should drugs in the United States be legal? I mean that sports to enhance your performance.
Okay.
I mean, hallucinogens, all kinds of drugs.
Okay, so next time when we meet in the deep end of the polemic pool, it's on the legalization of drugs and is it right or wrong? Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll see you in the deep end of the polemic pool from your lifeguards. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.